and that's what baffles evolutionary biologists. And what this group did was they escaped the cleansing of the earth, so to speak, and they came back. When they came back, they brought back all the old genetic strains. They brought back all the old animal strains, and these strains were, helped by this group of people who had left and came back, and they came to dominate the Sophia Earth that was here, and so they kind of just kept the same thing going, and we're not really advancing anymore. And so they kind of broke the rules, and they've been living here for a long time, for probably about 60,000 years, and they're living with us. And we have legends about them. You can read the Book of Enoch. They're the Anunnaki. They're the Aryans, and they've been living here. And they've been having. Sometimes they break their vow and they have sex with Earth women, and create hybrids. But they're not really hybrids because they were human anyway. But they did get slightly changed in the 120,000 intervening years that occurred. And when they came back, they were different. They were taller. They had pale white skin. They had whitish and red hair, and they were very advanced. And they came here and they left us alone for the most part. But 6,000 years ago, they reared their heads again because alarm bells went off, which told them that it was time to start moving and get out of Dodge before the next round of coronal mass ejections occurs. And this will all come out here in the next year or so in our new film, Sacred Geometry of Time, but that'll have to wait till then. So so that's what happened, and that's who's been pretty much ruling the earth, is this group of people that, the Gnostics used to call the Archons. Today they're called the Anunnaki or the aliens or the Nordics, and they have different names for them. And they're reported all around the world. They're where you get the name fairies, because fair means white, blue eyes or green eyes and light skin. And you start going around the world and you find that there's these myths everywhere of these beings, and they still are here for some part, but most of them have escaped to begin again another day. You need to go to Joseph Skipper, type in Hail Crater Civilization, and start looking at some of the stuff that Hoagland and others have found on Mars, and you'll start wondering what's really going on.
So the structures in the Cydonia region on Mars were built by these Aryans or the Vril from Europe.
That's right. That's right. They built them, and then they came back, and they renamed all the areas that they came back and occupied. So Sidon or Cydonia was also Lebanon, Syria, Iraq. All right, and David Flynn has done incredible work with the Martian Chronicles, where he goes through the history and shows you that the etymology of all the places in the Middle East is all derived from names that are on Mars, and it's this group. They're here. They've been here. They're the ones that are behind the scenes, ones that we think are conspirators. And most of the rest of everyone is just a useful idiot who doesn't really understand what's going on. And this is all going to go ahead.
Yeah, I've heard you say that the United States was actually created by the Aryans or the Vril.
It was. In fact, the end date for the Puranas is 2442, and the United States was created 666 years before, in 1776, as was the Illuminati in Europe, and these were that in itself may not mean much to most people, but when you understand the higher dimensional mathematics behind the space-time ideas of the Puranas and the Vril, you begin to realize that 666 actually is a very important number, and you can see that that there's evidence also within the architecture of Washington, D.C., which was built right after 1776, which also has this higher dimensional time-space matrix number system built into it. And all this is coming out in a book by Robert Lawler, coming out next year, and our film also with Robert Lawler, Sacred Geometry of Time. So if you guys give me, another 9 months or so, I will have this out in possibly a 6-hour epic in which we are going. Robert Lawler is the smartest guy on earth right now, and he has cracked the code, and we're going to get it out in a way that is going to be understandable to people, and that's our goal.
Sacred Geometry of Time. I'll have to make sure I get that. That sounds very interesting.
Well, I'll send you a copy when it comes out.
Oh, thank you. You had contact with a NASA insider that confirmed your knowledge of the Aryans or the Vril. Can you tell us about that?
Well, people in NASA were talking to me in the early 90s. I was writing a book about the moon and the strange things that are on the moon, and they came forth to me, pretty honestly. They were old. I don't want to name their names or anything, but they told me that, they had much more advanced technology than they'd let us on to believe, and that the rocketry was just a cover for this super advanced technology that had been developed in Germany during World War II. In fact, I've now come to believe that World War II is nothing more than a cover story for a reason to fund this technology, in the Peenemünde camps in Germany and Poland where they developed this stuff. So I'm a big fan of Joseph Farrell's work, and he's done top-notch research into this and proven it beyond any shadow of a doubt, as far as I'm concerned, that this flying saucer technology, while there may have been, people who are using it, or beings, or aliens, the stuff that we've been seeing since World War II, the proliferation of UFO sightings, etc., is due mainly to the creation of these craft by the Nazis who were doing it for the Vril. And the United States has it, and Russia had it. I'm not even sure there was a Cold War anymore. I'm wondering if that even was a mask to cover up the fact that they were working on a binary research project to create some seriously advanced technology. And these people told me that, we had these craft and that we could get pretty far away from the Earth really fast. And, I leave it at that. You can use your imagination. But I would point out that British hacker Gary McKinnon, who is the United States is now seeking extradition to bring him from England to the United States, told a British newspaper he had hacked into the Pentagon computers, and he said there was a secret space program and that there were 100,000 personnel in it, and that they had ships that were going all over the place. Now, that on its own sounds like a kook job, except for the fact that the United States is spending an inordinate amount of money and time trying to extradite this guy. Why? There's only one reason: to get him here, to shut him up. That can be the only reason, because he saw things he shouldn't see. So, and that's what I've heard. So, I think there is a secret space program. I think it's huge. I think that that's one of the reasons why they hired Stanley Kubrick to fake the Apollo moon landings, was to hide it. I think the whole thing can be actually fairly easily understood once you understand that this thing is so big and so huge, and what they're finding out there is so astonishing that they themselves are now so far advanced beyond us that they don't even feel like they need to tell us what's going on anymore. And so, look at it this way. If you wanted to travel in time, if you wanted to travel forward in time, you wouldn't really need to have to travel forward in time. All you really need to do is receive information from the future. Okay? So you could theoretically receive information from the future, which actually downloads everything that happened between now and, say, 1,000 years from now. And that future would be instantly created once you had that information, because you would now know how to make the machines or whatever happened at that point. And I think that's kind of what's going on here. I think that they didn't really contact something in the future. They contacted artifacts that were so advanced that they instantaneously passed through a gulf of could be 10,000 or 100,000 years of technological advance, and that's where they are right now. And they don't know how to tell us, nor do they care to tell us.
So these Aryans, or these Vril, are in control of what some would call the New World Order. Is that correct?
They tell the managers of the New World Order what to do. They never show their face. But they have people that they see, that we can see, that we think are the ones who are running the show, so that we never see the ones that are really running the show.
So you called our politicians then useful idiots in that sense.
Well, they are, and we should completely, at this point, I think that every time a politician speaks, we should just all roll on the floor and start laughing and pointing at them. Because at this point, it's kind of, the joke is in, we all know about the joke, and and we know they're not representing us, nor are they doing anything useful outside of representing the managers and what the managers want. And so, I mean, it's pretty obvious to me. It doesn't matter who it is, Obama or Bush or anyone. It's obvious at this point, I think, to anyone who's a thinking person, that nothing is going to change. And that in some ways the lies are getting even worse, because now the Gulf oil spill is not solved. It hasn't gone away, but they told us that it's over. And the Iraq war hasn't gone away. It isn't solved, and it's still going on, but they told us that we're out of there. So now they've kind of reached this place where they're just telling us all day, because we're so hyper-aware of everything that's going on now because of the Internet and a kind of a growing consciousness, they cannot actually lie like they used to. So now they're just creating gigantic phantasms and telling us that this is the truth. And unfortunately, a lot of us are buying them, and we think that the Gulf oil spill has gone away, and we think we're really getting out of Iraq, or we got out of Iraq. Actually, I guess we're out, even though Americans are still dying. And so it's like the lie is they just cranked the lie up now again, because we're waking up to what is going on. And it isn't a lot of us. It's only a small percentage. But that small percentage is the only percentage that matters. In other words, if there's only 1% of the people that want to play in a football game or a soccer game, then the only people that matter in the game are those people. So if there's only 1% of the people who are awake and want to change what they see, the corruption and the violence and everything, we're the only ones that matter. So if we want to change the game, we can do it. And it's kind of self-evident to me. So the managers are only managing successfully as long as they keep us completely stymied in fear and believing their propaganda. And it's time for that to all end. I think it's time for us to take back. I don't think we should care whether there's coronal mass ejections or not. I hope that those guys are all terrified and scared so that we can take back power while they're terrified. So I think we just have to do it. I think we just have to rise up as a people and say, we're done. we're done with your whole thing, and mostly we're done with your phantasms. We're done with your weaving of phantasms in our heads, trying to get us to think that something's going on when it ain't, and free ourselves. And that's really my goal. I want to see the human race get free of these guys. And if they're leaving, and I think they are, I think they've left, good riddance. Go away. Don't come back. You know? And
where do these Vril or Aryans typically geographically locate themselves on Earth when they're here?
They don't like the sunlight. They're 120,000 years on Mars, kind of depleted their melanin in their skin, and they can't get, and also their alchemical experiments cause it, but they can't get melanin, which is what causes your skin to go dark when you're in the sunlight. They can't get it into their skin. It's an artifact of living on Mars. And so you got to go to really the northern regions of Earth, which is really where you find the legends of these people, Finland and Norway and Sweden. And this is, of course, where Tolkien gets his mythology from the Finnish mythologies. And the elves would be the Aryans. In other words, they were tall and blonde, and basically they stayed away from the rest of the races. But until history came, and then history, of course, started in 6,000 years ago or so, and that's when the Aryans went into effect, went into work, started their action, started civilization, began creating the edifice that would allow them to rebuild their technologies to get out of here. And that's what the elves are doing in Lord of the Rings. They're leaving and going to the west. Well, in Norse mythology, going to the west was a euphemism for going to Mars. And the Norse and the German people all believe that they were from Mars. That's their central intrinsic myth. And if you read the Norse myths, you can see that there's these incredible connections to these Aryan gods and these powerful beings who came here on burning ships to escape Ragnarok, which is an Armageddon type of thing. And it's very fascinating.
Do you believe that Vril or the Aryans had anything to do with the Gulf oil spill, or was it an accident? How do you perceive that?
Well, I mean, I think that there's many ways to look at it. There's a lot of, to be honest with you, that Gulf oil spill is one of the most disturbing stories that I followed, and I only pick one or two stories out at a time to really concentrate on because I'm so busy. But at heart, I'm a lover of the earth, so that one hit me hard, and I started following it. And I tell you, that story is absolutely just gives me the creeps. Everything from the fact that it blew up on Hitler's birthday to Matt Simmons, the biggest critic of BP, dying in his hot tub. And right before he died, did an interview where he said that the relief wells would never work. We heard 2 or 3 months ago that the relief wells were going to be early and that they would be in place by early August. Here we are in almost mid-September, and the relief wells aren't in yet. And they should have been drilled like 30, 40 days ago. They're not being put in. The reason they're not being put in is because there is no bore on the well. It is blown out. The reason it's blown out is because the Earth's fundamental dynamics are undergoing a shift, and this is why you're seeing sinkholes and why you're seeing these weird volcanoes and strange earthquakes all over the place, because the central electromagnetic core of the Earth is undergoing a dynamic shift right now. And this is all prophesized to happen and start in 2010, and it is. And so, it's a great cause for concern. So I don't think it was actually caused by anybody. I think that they just foolishly dug the well. But when it did break, and it broke because of increased pressure underneath the earth, and now we have several, maybe even 10, 15 holes of oil pouring out all over the Gulf, and they can't stop it because they broke into an oil volcano. And that's why they're not even bothering with the relief wells, and they're acting like it's all capped, and it's just all one big, huge ocean of you-know-what. I think that what you're seeing is that they're letting it happen now because it's going to depopulate the Gulf region and probably a lot of the world, because the United States relies on the Gulf for seafood so much. So I think what the managers have decided is that we're getting too smart too fast, and we're beginning to wake up, and it's time to put us asleep. Only this time, not figuratively, if you know what I mean. And so, it's a very dangerous time we're in, and it's a race between, history is a race, H.G. Wells said history is a race between education and disaster, and we're in that race, and we're in the final aspects of that race, and those of us who are trying to educate are trying to do it as fast as we can, but, events are overtaking the situation, so now I think we just have to worry about the people who are awake and aware and hope that they can take care of themselves so that we can get through this nasty little period of time we're going through, come out the other side, and maybe create a little bit better world than the one we had.